Greetings everyone and welcome back to another Starship Review. Today we're going to take a look at the Vinci Miracle Worker Escort. This is a Tier 6 update to the Sabre, and it came out along with the Agile Ships bundle with the Tier 6 Equinox, which is the update to the Nova class, which a lot of people have been looking forward to. I'm going to say I wanted to do the Nova first, the Equinox, but the trait on that one is still bugged, and they fixed the Gatling emitter on the Da Vinci, so that's why we're going to look at this one today. I haven't seen them do any acknowledgement of the issue with the Equinox trait, and I don't want to review it until I know what they're going to do with it. So we're going to look at the Da Vinci first. And to be honest, I'm not a real big fan of this ship. I did get the bundle. I'm happy to review it, but let's go ahead and break it down. So if we look at the ship chassis, it has a 431 weapon layout, which is consistent with the Tier 5 version. The console layout, on the other hand, is actually worse than the Tier 5 version. The Tier 5U version gets 5 tactical console slots, and the Tier 6 version does not. It only gets a maximum of 4. Now, of course, it is a full Miracle Worker ship, so you do get that Miracle Worker Universal Console slot, so you can still have 5 if you use that, Miracle Worker 1.4 Tactical Console. I just think it's very weird that the Tier 6 update actually has worse Tactical Console seating than the Tier 5 version. Then you add on to that the Bridge Officer seating sticks you with a forced Lieutenant Commander Engineering seat. The Tier 5 version was a 43222, I believe. This one is a 43321, which I prefer, but it's just not as flexible in my opinion. The biggest comparison I can make to this ship, if you're thinking about what else to buy instead, is the good old Gagarin. The Gagarin and the Fleet version, the Shepherd, because this one also has a Fleet version as well, the Fleet Sabre. And this is just a worse version across the board. The chassis and the accessories, which we're going to get to in a moment. But the Gagarin's just a more solid ship. Yeah, it has a battle cruiser mastery package instead of the Escort one, so maybe it's not quite as good in that regard. But it has just as many tactical console slots. The Gagarin has a 5.3 weapon layout, and it has a Lieutenant Commander Universal, so you can choose what you want for that Lieutenant Commander seat. Overall, really just not a fan of this chassis at all. But let's go ahead and talk about the accessories. We have a brand new trait, Starship trait called Energy Overdrive. When using beam firing modes, I think beam overload, beam fire at will, and exceed rated limits, you can get some flight speed, turn rate, that's 100% of each, which is pretty good for 10 seconds, and then up to 50% Cat 1 energy weapon damage, minimum of 10%, maximum 50%, and that's based on your proximity to the target, so the closer you are, the higher that number is. That sounds pretty good maybe, but it's not really. We have other traits that are just better than that. If you're looking to do beam overload, we have traits that can give you more than 50%, or we have traits that just flat out give you decent Cat 2 boosts, or we have traits that give you crit chance and severity, which is going to be better than this. Truth be told, this is a very weak trait. It's just not very good, and I don't recommend it. Then we have the new console, the Troyes protocol. The passives include some outgoing hull healing, reduced weapon power cost, and then, of course, it has a clicky. For the first 8 seconds, you get 30% Cat 1 damage boost. Then you get 125% haste, which is, really, really good. Obviously, that's a huge amount of haste. And you're also unkillable. So that seems like it would be good for PvP. Other people have pointed that out. There are some people who do it, but I review ships based on PvE. Even though this is really great, we haven't gotten to the other shoe yet. The other shoe has to drop. So for 8 seconds, you get those really good stats with the 125% haste, and then your weapons are offline for 8 seconds, and you become stealthed, and you recover your hull and shields, and you're never going to use a console clicky that is going to turn your weapons off for 8 seconds. That's just no way, no chance. Then we got to get to the new experimental weapon, which they did actually include a new one, which I'm happy about. For a while, we were getting, especially with the C-Store ships, we were just getting the bug zapper. So we are getting a new experimental weapon. It's called the Gatling emitter. You probably already heard it was bugged. It was causing you to not be able to use abilities and stuff during its charge up time. It has a 3-second charge up time, which is pretty unusual, so it needs to wind up. But it's still not a very good experimental weapon. It's kind of fun to use, so if you just want it for the aesthetic, you want to feel like a space gangster, I guess, then that's pretty cool. But you can't change targets with it, and it has a charge up time, and it's kind of a silly weapon that doesn't perform that well. It's, third strike here. All of the accessories on this ship are bad. The chassis is bad. And so now we have to come to the ratings. And of course I have my new rating system. It is a full spec Miracle Worker ship. And with a 4-3-1 weapon layout, you could do a beam overload build or an exceed rated limits build. That might not be too bad. But it's just worse than the Shepherd or the Gagarin, take your pick. So if you're looking for the C-Store, the Gagarin's better. If you're just looking for the Fleet Store, the Shepherd's better. Just across the board, it's just a worse version of another ship. And it's just not doing it for me. And I don't think Miracle Worker is especially strong right now anyway compared to other specializations. So I'm going to have to give it a low score here. I'm going to give it a 2 for the meta rating. Bad weapon layout, bad console layout, and a bridge officer seating that's not terribly flexible. That's just not good enough. Not cutting it for me. It's going to get a low score. Okay, how about the ship score? Well, it has a pretty sweet new design. You probably saw from the little cinematic at the beginning. I like the way it looks, and of course you can use kit bash with the other skins and stuff, so it's a really cool looking ship. But then I looked at the Tier 5 version because I said, well, how does this, instead of just asking myself, how does this seem as a ship on its own, how does this seem as an evolution of the Saber? Because we have a Tier 5 version, so does this seem like a better, improved version of the Tier 5? And I'm going to have to say no. The Tier 5 version has a better console layout. And I'm not necessarily convinced it even has a better bridge officer layout. So I really don't think this is a great improvement over the Tier 5 version, other than the fact that it obviously has specialization seating. So other than the really cool skin, I think just for the skin alone, because the skin is really good on this one, I'm going to give it a 3. But that's a 3 with an asterisk next to it. It probably deserves less. So not super happy with this either. And then we finally come to the accessory score, and I'm going to give it a 1. It's just garbage. I'm sorry. I hate to be that way, but it's just trash. I'm never going to use any of it ever now that I'm done reviewing the ship. It's just junk. That's my review of the Da Vinci Miracle Worker Escort. Sorry about my voice. I'm recovering from a head cold. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.